Hi, so my name is Emily Winters-Posselt, and I'm the principal designer at Peabody's Interiors. We're located in Brown Deer, Wisconsin, so just a little north of Milwaukee. And we typically do really high-end, fun residential projects, new construction from the ground up, whole house renovation. But we're fortunate enough to have a fun little showroom attached to our design studio. So if you're coming in and looking for a hostess gift or something cash and carry, we have that too. It's a really great space. I am one of those people who I think from inception was just sort of born with this desire to create. And I'm so fortunate because I had a mom who very early on recognized that. And so she had no problems with the fact that her 6-year-old loved to pore over better homes and gardens, right? And like everything I drew, whether it was a house or a boat or a, lighthouse, all became a house in some fashion, right? Like I would draw layers and every floor would have a different function, and I'd draw in the furniture. I was accepted into a bunch of design schools and turned them all down because I was like, nope, I want to go and study art, and I'll minor in business, and eventually I'll work my way into interior design. So even though my path had some maybe unconventional twists that way, I've always had a passion since very little for creating specifically the environments that we live in. My typical client is someone who very much understands the value of having a home that's curated and having an environment that feels good to live in, right? When your environment is a good reflection of you and your lifestyle and your tastes, you live differently. And you live, I feel like, more harmoniously in your space. So I would say my typical client is someone who has a keen understanding of that, who appreciates really the finer things in life and isn't afraid to, reach for those as we're doing home design, and values the fact that they need someone to sort of be their guide along this path, right? So my typical project would be new construction from the ground up. I'd be hired the same time as the architect, or whole house renovation, again, typically hired in tandem with an architect, generally really large scale turnkey type projects, right? So I'm involved in everything from all of the material selections down to the furnishings, consulting on art, doing custom window treatments. Sometimes clients say, listen, I'm only going to live here a few months out of the year. I don't want to do the towels. I don't want to do the dishes. I want you to handle all of it. So then I'm handling all of it, top to bottom. But it's typically a large scale, somewhat turnkey type of a project. I think it has its pros and cons, right? Like sometimes it is a little harder because there's not really like a go-to tile store, let's say, right here in Milwaukee, right? Everything for me is a little bit of a drive, but I will say I have fabulous vendors, in Chicago, in Kohler, in areas around me who are always more than willing to just ship stuff to me. I have a couple of custom rug vendors who I'll call and say, hey, I have a presentation in 2 days and oh my gosh, I need this, this, and this. And by the next morning, I'll have boxes of rug samples on my dock. So I think there again, like if you network and you build the right connections and you have your go-to sources, I've got phenomenal reps who are more than willing to ship things to me. And I go to Chicago every chance I get. I try to get to as many trade shows as I can get to, art fairs, anything to source new product and check out new things. And I think too that, I spend half my life doing a deep dive on the internet for, whatever it is that I need to find next. It's like anything, right? Too much of a good thing is too much, right? So too many antiques is too much. Not enough, though. Too many new things makes a house feel sterile. And so I think it's finding that right blend. And if you find an antique piece that like really sings to you, I think it's important to grab it and get it. And then we mix fresh things around it to keep the whole thing on its toes. I feel the same way about paint and wallpaper. If the whole house is paint, it's boring. If the whole house is wallpaper, it's like sensory overload. So it's like striking that balance. Same thing with antiques, striking that balance, creating a story, creating personality, having a space that feels collected and not like someone turned to page 10 of God knows what catalog, right? And said, let me just order this. So it's all about curating and creating a balance. I have a project that's underway right now and we're getting so close to the finish line. But I would say this project is like a testament to the fact that a house does not have to be on a grand scale to have incredible detail, right? We literally took this little house from the late 20s, early 30s and took it down to the studs and have created this little Art Deco jewel box. So we have like a beautiful floor to ceiling mural in the primary bedroom. And we carved out this little bar space between the kitchen and the living room. And we wrapped the thing in custom mirror tile and some beautiful fluted walnut panels. We're working with a custom metal worker to do this beautiful brass etagere that'll sit on the countertop in the bar space. So, bringing in all of those lovely little details, almost on overload in this tiny space, but it has made the whole thing just come together and sing. It's just beautiful. Not that long ago, probably about a year and a half ago, finished a kitchen and bath renovation. And we did some fun things like, took the bath cabinets and just used a slab front on our doors, but had a custom metal worker do a little brass band where the raised or recessed panel of the door would be. And it added just the most beautiful little detail to that cabinetry that was unexpected. Every cabinet you look at has a recessed flat panel or a raised panel. This was just a nice way to set it apart. I've had a handful of clients recently who maybe have never worked with an architect before, right? Or never worked with an architect and a designer before. And so then I think there is a challenge of like educating them on what to expect, right? On how the process should go, on what the benefit is of having an architect and a designer on the same team. Sometimes people are like, why would I spend for an architect? I have you. But there are things that architects do that I don't do as intuitively as what they do. And there are things that I do that architects don't do. And so I think having that synergy between a team of a designer, architect, and then also general contractor is huge. That's how the project functions best. So I think sometimes it's that process of educating, right? And helping them to really understand why it is that all three legs of that team are so important. I think too, like balancing my time is always a juggle. Like this is forever my biggest challenge. Like maybe someday I'll get it right, but I haven't found it yet. But just being able to be in front of clients, which is where I need to be, but then also do the sourcing, do the creative stuff. I have an amazing team behind me that helps with all of that helps with my sourcing, that does my procurement and my, purchase orders and my billing and all of that. But there's still like a certain headspace, right, that I have to try to get them into to really understand like, hey, this is what I'm after, or this is what I need, or this is what this project wants to be. And so that balance of time is another tough one. I do a flat rate. I just have found over the years that, people don't love surprises, and this process is so organic. And I want people to call me when they think of things. I want people to feel free to pick up the phone or send an email and say, oh my gosh, what about this? And I know sometimes when it's an hourly rate, people look at the designer the same way they look at their attorney, right? Like, I don't want to send an email because I'm going to get another bill for 15 minutes of their time. And I would rather have it take up too much of my time and get the email and be able to get to a better point in the design and not feel like I'm hampered by this, like, what's the hourly rate going to be? What's the next bill going to be? How did that add up so fast? So I sort of have this formula over the years of what I think it takes me in time to do a house of a certain size or a project of a certain size. And so I put that out as my design fee, and I put it out there, with all the caveats of like, okay, here's the additional for shipping, here's the additional for warehousing, if I'm procuring antiques for you. This is funny because one of my assistants and I were just talking about this earlier. So I absolutely hate birds, hate them. Like they terrify me. They swoop out of nowhere. I absolutely don't like them. But so many of my designs have birds in them. Like, I don't know if the birds are coming for me. I don't know what's going on, but I'm specking birds in wallpaper and birds in fabric. You'd never guess that I hate birds, but they really creep me out.